I'm very, very excited to be here. And thanks to Samson and Ada and the team. Thank you for inviting me. I came here and I was just like very excited. The number of people still remaining, even after jollof rice. I expected this place to be half by now, but I'm really excited that you guys are here to listen to my talk. So it was very hard for me to come up with the topic to talk about today because there are so many things I want to talk about. But I spend more time coding than talking. I wish I could switch careers. I wish I could talk more and code less. But unfortunately, that's not the case. So the title of my talk, Tiny Changes, Remarkable Results, is actually was said by James Clear. How many of you know James Clear here? The author of Atomic Habits. Have you read Atomic Habits, the book? All right. I think you guys should go and read it. So, Tiny Changes, Remarkable Results. I've been reading that book for the past 2 weeks now, and there are so many things I've learned from the book regarding your habits and your identity. And I am going to be talking about that in relation to open source. So, are you ready? So, just a little about me. These days, I like to call myself a retired baby boy. I used to work at Andela. Andela started in 2014. I was one of the early employees at Andela. I think I joined around November 2014. And we trained some of the first set of, folks that graduated from Andela. And then after Andela, I started working at a company called Otwell. Otwell is based in Seattle. I was a technical writer and an open source developer for them for about 2 years. And then I worked at Apollo. How many of you know Apollo here? If you've used GraphQL at some point, you know Apollo. All right. I worked for them as a developer advocate. And then now, I'm working at a company called Eden Life. All right. I used to call myself the high priest of open source. Because in 2016, I was very active in the open source space. In fact, I started contributing to open source in 2015. And in 2016, I had done a lot that I'm going to talk about here. So I just want you guys to listen carefully. So 5 years ago, I decided to change my life, and open source was a big part of it. I was in Andela then. This was in 2015. And as I was training folks to become software engineers, it dawned on me, because I was a technical trainer at the point. And I remembered when we were in primary school. Remember when you go to secondary school and then you graduate, and then you come back, and you still come back to meet the teachers that taught you back then. So I was thinking, is this how my career is going to be? Will I train some people to be world-class engineers, and then they will come back and meet me here? What's going to happen? So I was looking for ways to level up. Like, how can I level up my skill as a software engineer? And then I started reading articles online. I was using Laravel very actively at the point. I'm a very big fan of PHP, as some of you already know. And one of the things that was like boldly written on one of the articles I was reading was that I should contribute to open source. And then I started researching about open source. I started looking at the people around me. It's one thing to contribute to open source, or it's one thing to want to contribute to open source. It's another thing for you to see people of your kind contributing to open source. So I was looking for people around, like, who are the Nigerians that are contributing to open source? Who are the Africans that I can imitate? I can see some of the things they are doing, and then I can just follow them to contribute to open source. And then I looked around, and to be honest, I didn't find any. This was in 2015 then. I was like, okay, you know what? I know you're not Moses, but you're going to start and lead the path. And then I started. And then along the line, I discovered this. I discovered that open source became a habit. In fact, as I nurtured my open source habits, the habit of contributing to existing repositories and creating new repositories, I discovered that it changed and shaped my identity as a person. So in 2014, I was known as a technical trainer. In 2015, I started contributing to open source. As of 2016, a lot had changed. A lot of people started knowing me, not just as Prosper Otemuyiwa again. People started calling me so many names: the evangelist, Unicode developer, so many things. And it affected my identity. So people will meet me on the street, and they'll say, oh, sorry, I'm trying to remember. I've seen your face somewhere. And I'm like, trying to tell them that my name is Prosper. And they're like, no, you're a Unicode developer. I say, that works. That works too. And every single time I travel or I'm invited for a conference, I discover that some persons I've seen my work one way or the other, and guess what? Everything traces back to open source. Oh, there's this repository that you did that I'm using. Thank you very much. Oh, there's this article you wrote about the repository that you did. Thank you very much. There's this contribution that was made to Laravel, and then you wrote about it even before they released it. So many of those things shaped the way, I started looking at myself. So in this talk, I'm just going to tell you a story of about 3 people and the way open source changed their identities and changed their lives. So the first person, if you are very active in the Laravel space, you will know this person. How many of you know him? Yeah, very good. I can tell you right now that out of 1,000 Laravel projects, at least 999 people are using one of the packages this guy has created. But that's not even the most amazing part of this guy. The amazing part is that both of us started contributing to Laravel packages at the same time. Are you with me? I started contributing to Laravel packages in 2015. This same man from Netherlands started contributing to Laravel packages in 2015. But look at the wide difference now. I'm here wearing agbada. Guess what he's doing? Right now, he has created so many packages that is a constant face, a very constant and popular face on all the Laravel conferences, Laracon US, Laracon Europe, and he has created so many packages that I even wonder how he maintains these packages at this point. So many people have been blessed because of what he has done through open source. And guess what? That's not just that. The creator of Laravel, Otwell, recognizes him a lot. I mean, it's one thing for you to tweet. It's another thing for Otwell to like your tweet. A very good example is, okay, say you use React.js here. It's one thing to tweet about React. It's another thing for Dan Abramov to like your tweet. Right? If somebody like Dan Abramov likes your tweet, you have made it. In fact, you just leave what you're doing that day, you have made it. Right? So this man spent his time from 2015 up until now, and then in 2015 was just known as Freak. I used to follow his blog. We even used to chat a lot. I don't think I can even chat with him anymore. We used to chat. And then he would tell me, oh, I love the approach you're taking in writing open source packages. And then I would tell him, oh, that's the way I'm doing it. It will tell me that this is the way he's going about it. And then we'll rub minds on how we are going about it. But now there's a huge difference. What's the difference? He has been consistent and nurturing his open source habit over time. And now look at where he has gone to. So that's just number one. So Laravel came up with an exam certification board recently. I think the reason why they came up with this was because, as developers, you go to some places and some people are still asking you for certificates and all of that. So they tried to come up with some sort of certificate where if you take it, people can know that you're Laravel certified. And then he was on the board of that committee. I wish I was there, but the difference is that I relaxed while he continued. I want you to take this quote very seriously. Changes that seem small and unimportant at first will compound into a remarkable result if you are willing to stick with them for years. If you want to tweet about it, tweet about it. I'll repeat it again. Changes that seem small and unimportant at first will compound into remarkable results if you are willing to stick with them for years. Now, you're not sticking with them for 1 second. You're not sticking with them for a day. You're not sticking with them for 1 week. Recently I started going to the gym. And I told myself I'm going to stick with this thing for years. But I'm glad I've stuck for it. I've stuck with it for 1 week. And I hope I continue. But then for you, like Ben Lesh was saying the other time, open source, you have to be patient. It takes time. But then, as you are going about it, the habits you develop, the small changes you make, as long as you keep doing that every day, every week, is going to amount to something at the end of the day. So let's move on. The second person is Henry Yu. If you have used JavaScript here, if you have used any of the front-end frameworks, you must have used this guy's code. If you have written year 6 here, you have used this guy's code. If you have used Webpack here, you have used this guy's code. And it's so funny because 2 years ago, I was invited to speak at a conference where Henry Yu was speaking at. And then they invited us to the speaker dinner. And then I sat on the same table with Henry. And I was sitting beside him. I could feel the fire of open source. I already had so many questions to ask him, but I opened my mouth and nothing came out. Because he has done so much for the JavaScript ecosystem that we cannot even start talking about it. So let's talk about his story. How many of you know his story? Okay, I will enlighten you. Henry Yu started his open source journey by submitting his first PR to Angular. Well, I don't know how many people still use Angular here, but I think Angular is defunct now, is it? It's not? Okay, all right. Can you cut that out of the recording, please? So after he did that, he made a PR to Node.js CS. So Node.js CS is one of the tools, it was one of the popular tools at the time, but it did not function as a standalone. So it's for many of the JavaScript projects that you have Node.js CS like underneath, fetching it. And then, how did he start contributing to this? He started with a README, just a README file. You know, he was trying to fix typos, fix some things that were not well documented in the usage of the tool. Then it continued. And after that, he got discouraged a bit and came back to start fixing issues on Khan Academy. Now, when I saw this, I started laughing because I can relate. How many of you start with something so ambitious and then you look at it and say, this is not for me? And then you circle back to something easier and say, hey, let's continue with this. That's how many of us are in our open source journey. So you hear my talk today and you're inspired. I say, yeah, this is what Unicode developer said. Tiny changes, remarkable results. Then after the conference, you go back home, you open Vue.js source code and say, it's time for me to contribute. This is you that has inherited code before and did not understand. And then all of a sudden, you're diving straight into Vue.js source code that's been written for several years. And then you look at it, and you discover that there are so many ways of writing JavaScript. And you discover that this JavaScript that you know now is not the one that you will know tomorrow. And then you give up and say, I don't know what Prosper was saying, no, but I'm not doing anything again. I'm okay as a local developer. So what I'm trying to say in essence is that start small. Start small, okay? Henry started small, went back to Khan Academy. Khan Academy is one of the most popular platforms now for educating people. It's like a free platform that people just go. You can see all sorts of courses, all sorts of exercises. And then he started fixing exercises, you know. There are so many small exercises, and then he will submit improvements. Some of his pull requests will be blocked or closed, and some were merged. And then he just continued. Now, what happened next? He went back to the Node.js CS. And one thing I've discovered about a lot of JavaScript dependencies is a very good example will be when you look at Angular and Vue and React, you discover that they always have some packages, some similar packages, or they have some linting rules that applies to everything. So if you make a change in one of the packages, if you check out the issues and all the contributions, you see somebody will submit a PR and say, oh, this repository has been updated. Can we update it for our framework, right? So he went ahead and started doing the same thing. So if you go to Angular, please, we have made it. A change has been made here. Let's update it here. And then they will accept the PR. And he just kept on doing that. And as he kept on doing that, because of his contribution so far, some folks approached him, and that's how he got his first major job. Behance is one of the products that Adobe uses. So he started working at Adobe because of open source. They saw his contributions, they saw how many stuff he had done, they saw how he was consistently submitting PRs, and they said, you know what would you feel like for you to come and work at Adobe? And that's how he got his first major job. And then, of course, when he started working at Adobe, he didn't stop. That's when he got to discover Babel. Babel was created by Sebastian. Sebastian is a Facebook engineer right now. Sebastian is also part of the guys that created Yarn. For you guys that know Yarn, exactly. He's a very smart individual. So he started contributing to PR, to Babel. But look at his first PR. What's the title of that first PR? More ES6. Imagine you get to a project. Now, it seems so funny now, but you see that every one of these people that have started always started from what? Humble beginnings, small. You look at a code repository and say, what is the thing that can contribute to this repository that makes sense? Because you know you don't understand it, but you have to start from somewhere. And then it was like, you know what? The way this code is written now, ES6 is not enough. Let us contribute more ES6. And then he contributed and submitted the PR. And that PR got merged, and that's like he started contributing to Babel. So, I don't know, you guys at the back cannot see this. But then as he started contributing to Babel, one of the core contributors of Babel now came out and said, oh, we are looking for people that will help us maintain this part of the project. Because you have the Babel core, you have the Babel ES-links, you have so many like sub-packages in Babel. And then he offered to maintain that package. And then as he offered to maintain this package, he just continued doing that until he started contributing to Babel core. Because some of these changes too were merged into like Babel core, and then he just continued like that. And today is actually the chief maintainer of Babel. In fact, he quit his full-time job and just started contributing to open source full-time. I know many of you cannot relate to that in this audience, but that's okay. He quit his full-time job and started contributing to Babel. Because Babel had changed everything around him. He changed his identity as a developer. He became an open source developer. Many of the conferences he attended, he was always talking about Babel. Many of the conferences he attended, he was always talking about open source. So everything around him was changed due to the open source habits he developed right from time. Let's move on. And I want you to know this. Habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. Habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. Now, the self-improvement we are talking about in open source is not just writing the code itself. I know you can look at the source project and say, this is too advanced for me to contribute to. But what about the documentation? What about the articles surrounding that project? What about other projects that support the project? We'll get to a very particular slide that I will reference this again. Third person I want to talk about is Sean Larkin. If you have used Webpack in the house, how did you get to know about Webpack? If I can remember clearly, Webpack is a beast. In fact, when you start to learn front end, you come across articles where you say, how to configure Webpack for... How many of you were using React before Create React app came out? Aha, how was the pain? Now we have Create React app, we have all these tools that will just bundle everything for you and provision you, the framework for you, and everything is great, right? But before then, people had to manually configure Webpack. In fact, there were popular repositories that just had configurations for Webpack. Right? Oh, you want to do this with Webpack for this framework? Just clone this and just use it. All right? Now, let's look at how Sean started, Sean Larkin. Right now, Sean Larkin is the technical program manager for Microsoft Edge, but we'll get to how he became the technical program manager. Just stay with me. So Sean started his career as a technical support. Technical support. And what was he doing? So you know how people are like customer success agents or technical support where you have to call them, I've been using for some of you that use maybe fiber here or something is wrong with your cable, and they call, right? And somebody picks it up and say, we are checking to see what's wrong with this with your account or something like that. That's what he was doing. It was just technical support. But after some time, he discovered that a lot of the issues that they were submitting to him were issues that he had to still submit back to the software engineers that were in charge of the project. And he became very curious. Like, how are these guys solving these things that I cannot solve, right? And then he started learning Ruby, he started learning a lot of other tools until he found JavaScript. Now, as he started toiling with JavaScript, he found Webpack. I think Webpack was at maybe the second version then, Webpack 2 or something like that. He found Webpack, but Webpack was not too popular, right? You had the creator of Webpack called Tobias. Tobias was working on Webpack, but Tobias was also doing his PhD at the time. So Tobias was not talking about it. He was just, building it. It was on GitHub. Some people were already using Webpack, but it was not as popular as it is right now. So you know what he did? He just, you know what? I love this project. I need to contribute to open source. So he started contributing to the project. Now, apart from just contributing to the project through code, he started speaking about the project a lot, which is part of open source that a lot of people don't talk about, right? Open source, everybody just expects you to contribute code, but that's not true. So if you are looking at open source and say, oh, we need more developers to join open source, yes, that's great. But how many of those developers need to contribute code? Because you have code that has been written, and you have people that are actually using the code but don't understand the APIs that have been written in the code. So some people write the documentation. Some people write articles around it. Some people speak about it. Some of the technical talks that have happened in this conference now has given you, some ideas about how to go about some projects. Like, oh, I never knew this project worked this way. Oh, this API now works, right? So that's what he started doing. He started talking about it a lot. Started doing a lot of developer advocacy about it. Started writing the documentation about Webpack. And then he was always responding to people with issues on Twitter. I remember, like, if somebody talks about Webpack somehow, just wait around for 2 minutes. Larkin will appear. He will just appear. You just send me the thread. He was always there. And then, as he was in Webpack, he was very consistent in his open source efforts at Webpack. And then all of a sudden, somebody reached out to him and said, oh, so the Microsoft Edge, the browser, the developer tools, uses Webpack heavily. So, who is the more perfect person to join us to be the technical program manager at Microsoft Edge? And now, Larkin, that was living in a local place called Nebraska, got a job opportunity at Microsoft as a technical program manager. So he moved from being a UI developer to a technical program manager, and that's what he has been doing ever since. Again, tiny changes, remarkable results, open source can change your life. Now, the last person, me. I think I've talked about this a few times, but I cannot overemphasize what open source has done for me. It has literally changed my life. See what I'm wearing, come on. Again, I started contributing to open source in 2015. I didn't know where to start from, but because I knew PHP and I knew Laravel very well, I was like, you know what? Let's start from where? Let's start from our base, then we can expand. And what did I do? Very simple. I wanted to bite more than the size of my mouth. So I went to the Laravel repository, github.com/Laravel, github.com/Laravel/Laravel, and I went to watch the repository. Now, I've never watched a repository before now. I don't even know what that looks like. I just know if you watch the repository, when somebody submits an issue or somebody submits a pull request, you'll be notified, right? And then you can go study the code base to see what's happening. I went to sleep. I woke up in the next morning and I got over 500 emails. What's happening? Everything, Laravel. Laravel. I said, what's going on? And then, because again, I wanted to be very ambitious, I started opening the email one after the other. I opened it, I'll check it. I say, I will not understand, but I say, it's okay. I move on to the next email. What's this API? I thought I knew PHP until I started checking out those issues. And people were using PHP in asynchronous ways. And then I started seeing some things that I've not seen before, like metaprogramming in PHP. I knew that there was metaprogramming in Ruby, but I never knew PHP had the powers of metaprogramming. And people were using it. I started seeing classes like get_class to get, a service class from a different folder. I'm like, wow. So again, I was very curious. I started opening the mail. Stupid me. Thank you. Mumu me. I opened all these emails, and instead of me to do something about it and say, okay, these emails are flooding in, maybe there's a way to control it, I left it like that. Second day, boom. That's when I knew that people don't sleep. There's a difference between you not sleeping for your own big job where they pay you money, and people don't actually sleep for open source. Like, you are contributing to open source as if they are paying you. People kept on submitting issues, kept on submitting PRs. I'm like, are they paying you people for this? How are you so consistent? But I was learning, so I kept on. Then I later discovered that there was a way in Gmail that you can group your emails. So I just went ahead and grouped everything. I put it inside the Laravel. There's a way you can group your emails. So everything coming from this thing can go somewhere. So I grouped it for Laravel, and then I went to watch the Composer repository too. Composer is like your NPM, right? But for PHP, because I wanted to understand like the core, the Ubuntu of PHP. I wanted to go deep. So as I was watching the Composer, I carried that onto, I grouped it, I put it into a separate stuff in my emails. So every morning, when I feel good and I'm okay, I'll go and open that part and say, let's check what's happening. And then I kept on doing that. Now, as I kept on doing that, I started learning so many things. And then I woke up one morning and said, you know what? I need to work on a project. So I looked around for projects that I could work on. And then I saw a hackathon starter that was done in Node.js. I think it was done in Node.js and some front-end frameworks. I can't remember the full details now. And I'm like, then I searched around if there was anything for PHP or Laravel. And I didn't see. I said, you know what? Let's create something. Maybe this is our opportunity to shine in open source. And I created the first project, Laravel Hackathon Starter. I did this project within a week. And then I released it. And in less than 2 days, people started tweeting about the project. I wrote about it, and then I put it on Twitter. God bless Twitter. If you're not taking advantage of Twitter, take advantage of Twitter now. So I put it on Twitter and say, hey guys, I've done this Laravel Hackathon Starter. Check it out. It will help you to like develop your project as a Laravel person. And then Bruno, how many of you know Bruno? Bruno used to be the SitePoint PHP editor. So if you used to read SitePoint a lot or contribute, Bruno was like the PHP SitePoint editor. Very big deal at that point, 2016. And then he tweeted about it. Wow, pretty epic. And he felt like Dan liked my tweet. I said, what? Is this my project? And as I was still looking at that, something else happened. This was the second week. I just knew that a lot of people were always like liking my tweets. It felt like my forehead was trending somewhere. I was just like, what's going on? People are liking my tweets. People are replying me on Twitter. People are in my DMs. And then I was getting like a lot of stars on GitHub. And then people were following me. Like, so what's going on? Until I went to check trending. Somebody actually pointed it out to me. That, Prosper, do you know that trending on GitHub? I say, you're joking. You must be joking. And then I actually went to check myself. And I saw first Google, second Unicode developer. I looked at it. I said, is Unicode developer a company? Is he a company? What's going on here? This can't be me. Right? And then third was Facebook. Let me tell you something. I didn't work for the next 3 days. First day, I'll just wake up and just put it on GitHub trending. I'll just be looking at it. I'll eat and I'll sleep. Second day, I'll check it again. I took screenshots. I took another screenshot again. I said, my time to shine shall not pass me by. We'll die here. So I just stopped there. Because one thing about success is when you have stated success, you want to drink more. It's like blood. So 2016, Paystack started, and then Paystack came up with this very fantastic API for developers to be able to add payments to their projects. And then I was like, this is another open source time to shine. And then I looked around if there are libraries for many of these things. And then I remember that how many of you integrated InterSwitch back then? Don't talk too much. It's okay. It was a pain. Because you have to email them, pay the money, they will now email you with the documentation. So it was terrible. And then all of a sudden, Paystack came out and then put everything out there. Just create an account, no payments, no integration fees at the beginning, and then you can just plug to the API wow, this is fantastic. But then how can we make it easier? Because I saw that it was just the API. Then I looked around if there were any libraries that people had created for Paystack, and I found none. I said, this is my time. This is my time. So I went ahead and created a Laravel package called Laravel Paystack. And then I created the Laravel Paystack, and as usual, I wrote about it, and I put it on Twitter. So as I put it on Twitter, After like a week or two, I discovered that because when you put PHP packages on what's the name of that stuff again? Packer, is it Packer list? I can't remember now. But like you can track, like you can see the amount of people that are downloading it or the amount of people that are using it. So I started seeing 200, 500, 1,000, 2,000, 4,000, 6,000, 10,000. Eh? People are actually using this package. Must be a joke. So I called some of my friends. I say, oh, do you guys want to contribute to open source? Maybe you guys can do the Ruby equivalent of this and like the Python equivalent of this. And then they started working on it. And boom, before you know it, we had so many packages that were connecting to Paystack. And then people were not just connecting to Paystack again via the API. People were now using the what? The libraries. Because of course, you know it's easier. You already have easier API methods that you can just use instead of having to like poke into the API methods and stuff. And then it's funny because I have not updated Laravel, this Paystack package in a long time, but a lot of people are still using it. In fact, sometimes I go to the repository and say, why are you people still using this package? Why? I've not updated it in a long time, but it works. So, and people just want things that work. So they see it, this thing works, it solves my problem, boom. Project manager, I'm done with my task. So whether you like it or not, I made life easy for some other people because I created this, right? And again, I didn't stop there. I continued. And then I created also Next.js because Next.js came out around that time. Next.js started becoming popular. I think that time I was working at Otemuyiwa, so I wrote about Next.js. I wrote one of the like major first articles on Next.js. So a lot of people started coming to it. I'm like, oh. And then throughout all this period, I'm always hovering around GitHub. I'm always on GitHub. I'm always checking repositories. I'm always checking where I can learn from. And I continued. And then I created Awesome Next.js. And as I created Awesome Next.js, one of the core contributors of Next.js saw it and told me to add him as a collaborator. I say, what's going on here? Okay. So I added him as a collaborator. And then for all the PRs that came in, he didn't even wait for me to look at it. He would just look at it. Oh, this is good. And he would just merge it. I said, okay. This is nice. And then I didn't even have to do much work. He just kept on doing it. So people were submitting Next.js articles, Next.js links, Next.js repositories, and he just kept on merging it. Until, as such, right now, this Awesome Next.js is the #1 resource on Next.js anywhere. So if you're looking for articles, you're looking for anything about Next.js, this repo that I created is the #1 resource anywhere. Because right now, this repository has over 3,000 stars. People just kept on starring it because it was helping them, right? And I went ahead and created so many. There was this Laravel password I created sometime. And like people started using it and stuff. And then I went ahead to submit a PR to Laravel itself. I say, we cannot stop here. My code must be inside Laravel itself. And then I started trying. I submitted the first one. Bam, they canceled it. Say, what's this? I say, it's okay. We'll continue. And then after some time, I created another PR. And Otwell say, looks good. I say, looks good. Looks good. Okay. And they merged it. And immediately they merged it into the framework. I say, again, it's my time to shine. And then the reason why I put this picture here is because I wanted to point out to everybody here that it's not just about the work you're doing, it's also about sharing it. I could have created those repositories and left it there and nobody would discover it. But I took advantage of my network on Twitter and I posted it. And more people saw it and visited it. So the internet is a rewarder of people who think well and possess the red shop to present them in learnable, clear, and understandable literature. This one is just grammar. All I'm trying to say is that when you create things like this, as you're trying to contribute to open source, please share them. Because you don't know the people that are looking. You don't know the people that need this project. You don't know the people that will find it useful and finally come back to locate you. So I'm almost done. I know I've taken all the time. So this is what happened. The tiny changes I have made over time in all my contributions to open source and with all the packages I've created made me become an authority in the community, made me become an open source champion. I became a Google developer expert too at the time. And then I got like several job offers. And in fact, there was a time they were trying to have open source conversations about all the core maintenance of different projects around the world. And then they invited me to one, there was a repo called Maintainerati or something like that, right? So they just invited me, and I saw my name. I said, they've given me an invite. Then I went into the place, and I saw the caliber of people that were inside. I thought it was a mistake again. I said, do you guys know that it's just few projects I've created? Why am I being invited here? And I think one of the perks, I can't remember clearly now, but I think one of the perks is that they'll give you coupon for life on GitHub. So I got some coupons, and then I don't have to ever pay for any private repository again. I say, me, inside Nigeria, getting this kind of opportunity. And I told myself, I'm not just going to stop talking about it. I'm going to tell other people. Because if somebody here can do it, other people too can do it. And more people can keep on like contributing to open source from this region. And one of the times they invited me abroad to like, they say, who is the open source person? Who can you talk about? Who can you recommend as one of the people that are very vibrant in open source in this area? And almost everybody they talked to just kept on recommending me. So they reached out to me and said, you have been recommended by almost everybody we reached out to as the open source champion in Nigeria. Would you be chanced? Would you be chanced to come to California so that we can talk about this? I said, would you be chanced? What am I doing with my life? My friend booked the ticket. I'm coming. Of course, I was not going to contribute to anything. The hotel had been booked. They were just going to pay for the flight, everything. I'm just going to carry myself. I just appear. I say, I'm not doing anything with my life. Let's go and prosper. Put it on the side. So I'll conclude now. I know I've burned all your time. Thank you, guys. Thank you. So, nobody cares about your certificate these days. Nobody cares about where you're coming from. Nobody cares whether you're a developer in a remote village. What people care about is what you have done. So when somebody is talking to you or somebody is trying to recommend you, the next question is, what has this person done? So, if you're a contributor to open source by default, you already have things to show for it. So when somebody is recommending you or you're going for a job opportunity, all you need to show is this is what I've done. In fact, if you want to brag, take statistics and say, these are the number of people that are dependent on my package. If you remove my package from the internet, these people will die. How many of you remember the left pad incident? They removed the left pad from NPM. Everybody failed that day. All the builds were failing because of left pad was how many lines of code? Maybe 21 lines of code. That was a package. Exactly. Babel was dependent on left pad. Almost every popular JavaScript repository was dependent on left pad. They yanked that package out of NPM and everybody's build in the whole world stopped because of somebody's open source code. Imagine if you were that person. As my friend Ace Kid will say, he say open source is the new source. It's deep, right? Open source is the new source. So if you are going to a job and you are still thinking about taking all your university certificates and your Cambridge or your TASWED certificate, forget about it. Forget about it. Bring out your GitHub repository with your chest. Take it. This is my work. When are you hiring me? Thank you, guys.